Hello, everyone. Welcome to Facts at 5. My name is Michael Clark at the LTV Media Center here in Wayne-Scott, New York. We are here on Channel 20 in the town of East Hampton, or you can stream us at ltveh.org. Thank you for tuning in. My exceptional co-host here this morning, and every morning,
Every
I guess.
afternoon,
Every day.
actually.
When is it? What day is this?
Who knows?
Right. Morgan Vaughan. Welcome, Morgan. So a couple of things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to go through our fast facts as we normally do. We're going to give some information about Southampton Hospital. We're going to go through a school update, random acts of kindness, some of the things that we've been doing almost every day. And then after that, we're going to be doing an interview, or you're going to be doing an interview actually with Bess Rattray. She's a volunteer EMT, so I'm really looking forward to that as well. So once again, thank you everyone for being here. And why don't you start off with something, I know we're going into the fast facts, but I think one of those is something that we touched on yesterday, and that was transportation.
Transportation, which I was actually speaking to a friend of mine who also is from here and grew up here, and we were both talking about the fact that the suspending of the jitney service was the thing that for us really said, this is a thing.
This is real.
It was, I mean, the schools, whatever, we've canceled school before, but the jitney service was something that both of us were like, it just symbolizes a lot, I think, to us. So they have suspended the jitney service. I think it's until April 9th. But the Long Island Railroad is up and running. Ticket offices are shut down. Obviously, that's the way it always is in East Hampton office. But just so people know, you can still, there is service on the Long Island Railroad. Just, I think it's LIRR.com or .org. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what it is. In terms of the buses, the Suffolk County is asking all riders to go cashless. And
what does that mean?
Cashless means that they have to use an app. And it's the mobile app is Suffolk Fast Fare.
Okay.
And then they're asking that people enter from the rear door to protect the drivers from being constantly inundated with the virus all day long. So you're asked to sit a little bit back from the driver. And obviously the reason they want to go cashless is so you're not continually giving the driver the cash all day long.
Okay.
So those things.
What else is going on, like locally, before we hit into the Cuomo facts and those type of things? Anything?
Well, I think one of the things that are going on is childcare. Is that there's clearly a need for people who are. Say that I'm a doctor and my husband's a nurse or a doctor, and we're both in the medical field, and we need to be at work, but we have small children.
Okay.
What do?
Yeah.
We don't have family who lives here, whatever. The Suffolk County, some South Fork school districts and day care centers are answering Governor Cuomo's call to help parents and caregivers. The Bridgehampton School District began its own program, which parents can take their school-age children as young as 3 to be cared for by the school's own teachers. Eleanor Whitmore is working with the East Hampton School District to provide child care for children as young as 18 months old. There is a cost involved. It's about $60 per day, according to this information that I have in front of me. And you can check out that information at ewecc.org, which is Eleanor Whitmore Early Child Care Center.org.
And that's great because they're a not-for-profit themselves.
They are not-for-profit.
Obviously, they need to have some money to make this happen.
And what the other thing is that the Bridgehampton, according to this, the Bridgehampton School District, the people who are doing this are volunteer teachers. The teachers are volunteering their time.
Wow.
People understand that this is a big deal, and they understand that people have to go to work in these jobs that are essential jobs. And that, I think, is the thing that everybody needs to keep in mind. We're talking about healthcare workers and grocery store people and people whose jobs everybody is depending on right now.
Right.
But that is fantastic.
Oh, totally. And, well, I guess the thing is some people are getting it because Governor Cuomo, still not a happy camper. He was on today. He's not very happy. He had a few words to say about the federal government, saying, basically he said, go ahead and pat yourself on the back about the 400 ventilators that you gave us. We need 30,000. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's not a shot at anybody in particular, but just in terms of the red tape that happens when these type of things happen. He also said that the curve is nowhere near being flattened, and the peak, it turns out, because of how quickly this is happening, is going to be 2 or 3 weeks earlier than expected. And when I first read that, I was like, okay, well, that'll be a good thing, right? But it's not. It's we're not ready. And so he's projecting 140,000 beds. That's going to be, which is up by the prediction. It was up by 30,000, which was predicted a few days ago.
Wow.
So it's moving that quickly in terms of what it is. So essentially, cases are doubling every 3 days. And right now, as of this morning, we're at 26,000 cases.
In New York State.
In New York State, yes, thank you. And you do the math, right? 3 days, 75, then 150, and that's tremendous acceleration of what's going on. So, he's keeping his arms around that and really pressuring extremely hard on how we can fix that problem. And along those lines, it's interesting that in the it was the East Hampton Press, I guess, and the Southampton Press, Robert Chilano, who was the Chief Administrative Officer of Stony Brook Southampton Hospital, answered a few questions for 27 East, actually. And they talked about one, and there was a whole bunch of questions, so pick that up if you want to read that. But one of the things that kind of ties into this, people were asking him about bed capacity, which you had scooped him on a few days ago.
Oh, that wasn't me who scooped. That was just the internet.
That was the internet. Yeah. That the bed capacity is 125, and he feels that as of today, we don't really have a need for much more than that. But of course, they're anticipating that that's going to change rapidly, and that he said that he's confident that he'll have the beds open when they need them, which is kind of, in my mind, a little bit different than what we're hearing from a state level. So it'd be really good. You think maybe we can try to get him on the program?
I don't know. Everybody's really busy, but we can certainly ask.
Yeah. And just to try to, bring that together, not to point so that people, fully understand what's happening. But he did say he's focusing on creating additional capacity. The state government is saying that we need to up the capacity by 50% throughout the state. So he's going to do that by not doing ambulatory surgery. This is part of what he's going to be doing. Not doing ambulatory surgery, elective surgery, all that stuff is out. And he feels that they're okay on supplies and that they're in pretty good shape. Again, a little bit something different than you and I have heard from the people that are out there working. So it would be really good to get, somebody from the hospital in here to talk about, the reality of that. And hopefully they'll come on the show. So that would be great.
I think one of the things that brings to mind when you're talking about that is that we think about the immediate need for the beds for people who have the virus, et cetera. But think about all the people who are having surgeries that may be elective but are still very, very important to them.
Necessary.
And necessary for them. I mean, people have had elective surgery because you're in terrible, terrible pain.
Right.
So now that's being put off.
Right.
This is not a dig at Southampton Hospital. It's just a fact of what's happening to everybody
around the country.
Around the country,
yes.
Is that this is something that is affecting people in ways that we might not think about if we're healthy in the moment.
Right, because we're so focused on this right now.
Right.
Think about all the people that are. I mean, unfortunately, people still having heart attacks and bursting appendix and all those things that need to be taken care of. And
they need to go to the doctor for whatever other reason.
Right.
And, you can't really right now.
Right. Having babies. I mean.
Having babies.
Right.
Right. All of a sudden, whole new world.
So, so that's kind of the update on that. But hopefully, I would love to get someone on here just to talk about that, just to straighten that out and put people's mind at ease, really, in terms of, what's going to be happening in the future.
Do we have enough stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about the schools? Is there anything new going on
Well,
with
the
those?
schools, I am pretty impressed with what the schools are doing. For one thing, right now, on the easthamptonschools.org website, they have updated in English and in Spanish the meal distribution list.
Ah, great.
So you can go and you can see when that is. And again, that's in Spanish as well. They are also they are also preparing the distance learning that will be launched on March 31st, which I thought was March 30th, but I might have my days wrong. So, but sometime soon they're going to be doing that. The district has ordered Chromebooks and hotspots to support families that don't already have them. When my kid was in 9th grade about 4 years ago, everybody in the class got Chromebooks. I'm not sure if they still do that, but still, you have the Chromebook, but then you're at home and you don't have Wi-Fi. And now you can't go to Starbucks or the library to hook into their Wi-Fi, so they're working with that. And I think that the schools are working in a completely unprecedented moment.
Sure.
And everybody's trying to navigate what's going on. And it is, can you imagine how difficult it is? I mean, you are a producer here. You are the executive director. You know how much one little thing goes out of the way, and all of a sudden the dominoes fall on the other side. So this is what's interesting to me about this, is that they're doing all that they can. I mean, clearly, there are a bunch of people who are not sleeping and figuring out how to feed all these kids and how to, test them and make sure that they're learning. And there is a lot of support, but right now, there's also a little bit of a gray area that I think we might all have to just sit back and wait it out a bit.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll soften the education requirements over this particular year. Right, I haven't heard much on that, but
I think I don't know. I mean, the SATs, I think they were postponed. I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many, even just that. Can you imagine all those kids who studied and were prepared to take the SATs on whatever, May 5th or something? Now it's all changed. I mean,
I
it's
got to do this again?
Exactly.
What?
Or like, I mean, it's all crazy.
It is.
And high school seniors who are not going to get to do their graduation in college. I mean, it's a big deal.
Very big deal. But there are a lot of really good things happening as well. One of the things that just came up today was that Southampton Town is now doing what we mentioned yesterday. East Hampton Town is doing that. It's a new service to deliver needed items to seniors. It's a free program called ASAP, All Seniors Assist Program. People can call 631-702-1777 if you're in the town of Southampton, with Supervisor Jay Schneiderman over there, or on the Southampton government website. You can sign up for that.
Yeah.
Anything else that you have that's going on with that?
No, I just think I think East Hampton is getting there. I think that we have the health hotline, which we put up at the end, and I'm also going to put up the Southampton Town website.
Right.
So we just have to keep involved in that and keep helping our seniors stay home.
One of the things, this is on a very small piece of paper, so I'll read it like this, if it's okay.
Do what you got to do.
You're right. I am one of those seniors. And in fact, I'll put these on.
Put them on.
That the New York State has created a landing page for all offers of assistance. There's a lot of people out there that want to do something, want to help, they want to volunteer. And so they created this page that provides clear and concise directions for where people should direct offers of assistance from healthcare professionals, where they can sell products to help with response, how to help with New York State manufactured products, and donations of goods and services. So we're going to put the name of that up on the page, because it's like
Well,
the
what they
entire
did was they
alphabet
took
long. Yeah.
I know. They took health.ny.gov, and now it's only coronavirus. So it's coronavirus.health.ny.gov, and on that page you can find links to gazillions of things,
Right.
including how to volunteer and how to help.
Yeah, so please take advantage of that, folks. Sign up, do because we're getting those calls and messages every day. What
Well,
can
I think
do? What can
Supervisor Van Scoyoc had a very good point, which when we asked him that the other day, what can you do to help? He said, stay home and stay healthy.
Right.
Because the minute you get sick, the minute you end up costing the system to some extent, and also nobody wants you to be sick.
And stay a Van Scoyoc away from the other person, which is 6 feet
Which
and
is 6
more.
feet
Right.
at least.
Right, so that's the new term. We're going to stay a Van Scoyoc away
Right.
from the other person.
Yep.
Here in the town of East Hampton. So once again, thank you for tuning in. Please stay tuned for
Up next is
interview
Bess Rattray.
with you and Bess, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jason, behind the glass.
Yeah, Jason's been amazing.
Have a good day.
So hi, we are here with Bess Rattray. Bess, could you say your introduce yourself, please? Your title and everything.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Bess Rattray. I am a volunteer EMT with the East Hampton Village Ambulance Association. And I'm an EMT-B, which means basic. I've only been an EMT for about 2 years. I am not an advanced EMT, and I am not a paramedic. And I'm not an officer with the ambulance either.
And can you explain how the Ambulance Association works? You guys are all volunteers, is that correct?
Yeah, well, how it works is the Ambulance Association is all volunteers, but we do have a paramedic on duty basically 24/7. Sometimes there's gaps in that coverage, as they try and make sure that they have someone on duty at all times. But there's a paramedic paid per diem who's available in most of the local East End agencies at this point, not all of them though. So at any given time, if there's one ambulance call, there's often a paramedic to go with the volunteers as well. If there's two calls, or the paramedic is off, or the paramedic is already on a call or doing something else, obviously we go without them. And there are some very advanced EMTs with a lot of training in our ambulance corps as well, who do a lot of the things that the paramedics do.
Okay. And what?
So there's about.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the East Hampton Corps is about 44 people, 44 volunteers in regular times, though obviously not. It's an aging population. Volunteering, we've all heard, is sort of dying out in the U.S., so fire service and ambulance tend to be sort of older population. Okay. So that's true of the ambulance corps as well. So our numbers now are somewhat reduced because there are people who can't go out on calls because they have an underlying health condition, because they're over 60 or even over 70. So we are not at our full strength right now.
What do you want people to know about about the Ambulance Association and about COVID-19 right now?
Well, I think the most important message that I hope is going out is that if people are feeling unwell, the first thing they need to do is call their doctor. Everyone's heard that hospitals are overcrowded and becoming, overstressed at the moment. And it's important for people, if they're not feeling well or if they're showing symptoms, not to immediately assume they have to be hospitalized or that they have to call 911. The thing that they should do is call their personal doctor, describe their symptoms. Obviously the doctor, if they're having severe symptoms, they're having difficulty breathing, that sort of thing, is going to ask them if they can get to a hospital, either with the help of a family member who has a car or calling 911. But that's the first most important thing right now. Our numbers of EMTs are down, the hospital's under stress. And if somebody just thinks, I'm starting to feel poorly, or, I think I need a test, unfortunately, that is not a go to the hospital situation right now. It's a stay home and speak to your doctor situation.
Right.
And that's the important message that our officers want us to get out there.
Because I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, on a regular day, somebody can be having a heart attack in a regular day without a pandemic, and they need to be seen immediately, as opposed to somebody who might be feeling a little poorly, as you said.
Well, this is very true. Regular calls go on. People are still falling and breaking hips, and people are still having heart attacks, and all those calls go on apace. The way that volunteer service works in East Hampton, and I think in quite a lot of the other local agencies, there is that we work in squads, and so you have certain requirements, certain duties that you do. In our ambulance corps, you're on a squad every 8th night from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., unless you've been in the department, I think 20 years, in which case you can opt for day service.
Okay.
So we're all obliged to do that on those overnights, unless we're unable to run calls at this time because of, what I said before, age or underlying health condition. So we're all doing that. A lot of us are trying to go out during the day as well, because we know that numbers are few, and the numbers who can go on a suspected flu-like case or a suspected coronavirus call, it's not a large number of people.
Okay.
So we're told when the call is paged out, if it's something called an FC call, which means fever, cough. Sometimes it'll say Q for quarantine, and that is an indicator that we need to follow certain protocols.
Okay.
In terms of what gear we put on, in terms of how we approach, the patient.
And you said you were going to get back to me about the mask information and all of that stuff that you can talk. We can talk about. You can give me that information maybe later and see what people can do, what they can.
Yeah.
We know that people can donate if they happen to have stuff right now, right? And where would they do that?
Yeah. There's a couple different ways people can donate. For example, if you work in a trade and you happen to have an N95 mask, those are the ones that are really of value to doctors, nurses, and as well as the ambulance volunteers and paramedics. It doesn't matter if it's one that was sold for an industrial purpose like dust, or people who work on a painting and that kind of thing. They did something, I think it was on a federal level, waiving liability towards the makers of those, 3M and so on, saying you will not be held liable if something happens to this mask. So it can be used for medical purposes, is what I'm saying. So if somebody has those in their closet, they could literally take that box and stroll it down to their doctor's office or the ambulance HQ and leave it outside. Obviously, you don't want to be going inside or bothering people, but you could leave it outside with your name attached, put a little note on it, so that they'll know who to thank, and should it not be needed, it could be returned. I know the East Hampton Star is also doing that, collecting anything anyone has at 153 Main Street in East Hampton, and can get it to those most in need. So there's definitely a need for those still. The part I'm not clear on is that recently there's been news that some of this PPE, the personal protective equipment we keep hearing about, some of that has been freed up. A small amount from the U.S. strategic stockpile, that's that federal stockpile we've been hearing about. Small amounts have been freed up from that, but then also New York State has purchased quite a large amounts in this complicated bidding process, and some of that is coming to Suffolk. And there's also private organizations that have donated and fundraised, and I don't know where they found them, but have found not just masks, but the gowns that we need to wear if we're dealing with one of these FC calls, fever, cough. You need booties, you need goggles, you need a gown or covering of some sort of coverall. So people are donating those. I don't know at the moment which local agencies have been on the receiving end of that yet, or if my own agency has been on the receiving end of that yet, and hopefully I can report back about that.
Okay, fantastic. Is there anything else you would like to add about this experience, about your experience, about...
Yeah, well, I think being an EMT, I think anybody who's a volunteer right now for fire or ambulance or any of that is really aware of and more hypersensitive to this idea of everybody pitching in and self-isolating. Like, for example, recently, just this morning, I was out walking my dog and I noticed a construction site still going full bore. And I don't know if that's still allowed at a non-essential site or not, but, you get this feeling of those people are at risk, they're putting themselves at risk, and by extension, they're putting everyone in the emergency services at risk. So I think volunteering gives you a lot of impetus to really get behind self-isolating.
Right.
So the message is, I saw, the doctors who are at the real forefront of this. I saw somebody on Facebook the other day holding a sign that said, you stay home so that, it was basically, you stay home because to be here for us because we're here for you. In other words, the doctors are taking the brunt of it and putting their lives at risk, really. And all you have to do is just go home. So you feel that very, very clearly as an ambulance volunteer. It's hard. We all have families. We have grandparents or kids at home, and we're all going to do as much as we can for as long as we can, but we're not sure what's going to happen when the numbers dwindle further. We're not sure if we have the equipment or the manpower for what's coming. So that's the message, everybody. Stay home, call your doctor. Don't assume you've got to call 911. And the other thing is maybe I don't have it right here. I have it on my computer. There's a phone number for the New York State hotline that you call in order to speak to somebody about whether you can get an appointment for testing at the Stony Brook site.
I think, is that the
That's another
888-36? I think I have
Yeah.
it at the end. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I can't remember right off the top of my head the number, the exact number, but that's the number. It's Suffolk County hotline, I think, for finding out
Yeah, there's
where
a
to go get
Suffolk
tested, et cetera.
And they'll speak to you, and there's a long waiting time, apparently like 2 hours to talk to someone, but they speak to you, and if they you agree that there's merit to your reason for getting tested at this point, they will give you an appointment to go to that drive-through at Stony Brook. So,
all right. Great. Thank you so much, Bess, for taking your time today. And we'll talk soon.
well, thank you, Morgan.
Okay.
It's delightful to talk to you. Thank you. Keep up the good work. We love what you're doing.